Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's training sprint, Dext 101, presented by me, Neil Graham, MD here at Accounting Inc. So this training sprint will last around 30 minutes, so please grab yourself a hot or cold drink and please turn off your devices. Agenda for today. So first of all, we are going to discuss what is Dext and why you would use it, how to get started, some best practice, tips and tricks, and next steps. So I'm just going to log into the Dext web application now. Okay, so this is what we would call the inbox. So we'll come on to more about that in a moment. So first of all, what is Dext? So Dext really is a tool used for expense management. It's smart technology is there to speed up your productivity and can save you hours of time every month on managing your business expenses. So if we go back in time, like 10 years or so ago, the process was really for that a lot of businesses would get a lot of paper documents, invoices and receipts, and a bookkeeper or someone within their business would be manually typing out the data on these invoices or receipts into an accounts system such as Sage or perhaps an Excel spreadsheet or writing up a book. So nowadays, what we are doing really in software such as Dext is going to take this data, extract it, and put that onto a digital record, which will end up on your accountancy software. So eliminating the use of manual data entry. So again, the big reason why you do that is to be more productive, saving you time. Tedious process typing out manual data entry is what used to happen in the past, and you can really automate things now, whereas you can get around things at a click of a button and use your time more wisely and in more enjoyable things. Okay, so I'll give you a few other reasons why you would use software such as Dext. Okay, so once we've got these transactions onto Dext and in your accountancy software, we've got this digital record of them. So that means that we can access them online really quickly. They become far more accessible opposed to sitting in a cupboard in storage or in a shoebox somewhere, not filed correctly. And the big benefit of that is that we can get access to that quickly, and also you're saving a lot of storage space. So big businesses, let's say might have hundreds and thousands of invoices every year, and historically, they've had to find a place to store them. So by law, you're required to keep accountancy records for 6 years. So that's a lot of paper if you've got a large business that receives thousands of transactions every year and having to file them. Whereas now we can access them online and get access to them really quickly. Another benefit is, let's say HMRC want to have a look at your invoices and receipts. They launch an investigation. We can get those items really quickly. It means HMRC are not necessarily having to go to your premises. They can come to ours and we can pull off those documents online rather than HMRC visiting your premises and you having to go through old files and folders to dig out those documents, and just really speeds up that process and cuts out a lot of stress and things like that. Also, we've got that record of the original transaction, so when it comes to doing VAT returns or accounts and things like that, we can access that invoice and make sure it's been correctly categorized and we've claimed the correct amount of VAT, for example. So they are, the main reasons really. So we've got the productivity and, accessing the data and making sure that that has been accounted for correctly. Okay, so we will now discuss getting started. So the first protocol really is getting your data into the system. So I'm going to click on this Add Documents button and go through the different methods of getting your invoices and receipts into Dext. The first one we've got is the mobile app. So you can download the mobile app for your smartphone and snap a photo, then send it into the inbox here for processing. Now I find that app useful for those receipts. Perhaps you're going to the supermarket or paying something on card, petrol station, for example. Whereas you might lose the receipt in the past, you can just snap it, throw it away, and we've got that digital record of it. Okay. Next, we've got email. Now I find the email solution the best really. If your business is anything like mine, my suppliers usually send me a monthly or quarterly email with our invoice on. So that email with the invoice will come into our email management software, whether that's like Outlook or Gmail, for example. So you can notice this email address here. So every Dext account, you get your own little unique email address, and you can edit this first part here so it's unique to your business. So you might have Acme Limited, for example, at dext.cc, and you can set this up as a contact within your email solution, and that means that you can forward on any emails with invoices that arrive in your inbox to your Dext email address, and they'll end up in your Dext inbox. Okay, so where we can really get clever with that is we can set up rules within your email management software to forward invoices automatically as they appear in your inbox. So let's just say you've got you get a recurring invoice of a supplier every month. You can set up a rule that when that supplier sends over that invoice, it'll automatically forward it to your Dext email address every month, and it'll end up in here. So you have not had to touch it, and you can see there that we've got some automation in play. Okay, we've got this drag and drop feature. So perhaps you've got invoices and receipts, things like that, stored on your computer, so you can easily drag and drop. That's maybe good if you scan documents, you get them through the post, you scan them on, you save them to your computer, you perhaps drag and drop. The other option is here that you just snap. You pull out the mobile app, you snap it, and it'll send it straight into here. Finally, we've got invoice fetch. So I'll just show you what this is. So invoice fetch is where we can connect to supplier accounts. Now think of these suppliers as your national suppliers, things like your British Gas, your telecoms companies, Amazon, Argus. Now it's recommending these guys here because we will have put in invoices in the invoice previously, and it's saying, well, we've noticed you've put invoices or receipts into the inbox. We can set up an account with them, and you can click on the green button and do that. You can click on full list here and search, or click on available suppliers, and that's got the full list there. Now, I find that useful for those suppliers that don't send you a recurring invoice. So historically, perhaps you've had to log in with online to your online account, download that invoice, put it in your accountancy software. So this is when that can be useful. The downside of this is that I find there is a delay between Dext triggering off the fetch and you receiving the invoice. So for an example, O2 send me an invoice every month and it comes into my email inbox. Now I could use this feature, but I find that Dext doesn't go and search for it until perhaps 10 days after I've had that original invoice, and the date I received the invoice is the date that payment comes out of the bank. So I like to keep up my accounts in real time. So that using this method means that I wouldn't have that invoice on my accountancy software for 10 days after the invoice has actually been raised and payment has been collected. Okay. So I'm going to head back into the inbox and discuss best practice. So we recommend that you get your items into the inbox. You can categorize your costs from within the mobile app. So let's say you snap a receipt, you can categorize it then, but I recommend best practices is just to get all your invoices and receipts into the software, then logging in online to the desktop version and going through categorizing them and publishing them over to your accountancy software. So best practice is to get some on, log in as and when, then click on the first one here, and you can see on the left hand side we've got a photo of our actual invoice, and on the right hand side this is where Dext has extracted that data and it's pre-populated these fields here, and the fields are the data from the invoice which will end up in your accountancy software, whether that's Xero, QuickBooks or what have you. So what we need to do now is we need to sense check what's been created in here to what's on the actual invoice. So I'll run you through some of these fields. Type. So it is an invoice, it's not a receipt. The date, yeah, happy with that. Suppliers, Virgin Media. Now I will come back to supplier rules in a minute. And again, I'll come back to due date in a minute. Now, another key one here is the category. So you won't be able to publish this to your accountancy software without setting up a category. And then these categories come from your accountancy software. So we, at the beginning, when we are setting up accountancy software for our clients, we set up Dext and let's say Xero, and we integrate the two, and our what we call our chart of accounts from our accountancy software pull over to Dext. So these are where you would classify transactions such as rent or accountancy fees or likes of loan repayments, that type of thing. So in this example, we have selected telephone and internet because we're saying it's for broadband expenses. And you can easily select a different one by clicking on here and just searching. Okay. Customer, that shouldn't really be applicable. That's for when you would recharge or assign a cost to a specific customer or client. And region, that relates to what we call tracking categories. So think about businesses that, within the one business might have different premises or locations. So let's say Greg's Quayside versus Greg's Northumberland Street, for example. and we can track the cost to the specific location that it relates to. Okay, so more key fields here are the amounts. So the total amount, 29.24, that agrees to that, yeah. Tax, now tax means VAT. And this little drop down box is where you would select whether it's going to calculate VAT from the extracted amount. So we'll read if there's any VAT on the invoice or receipt, or you're setting up a rule perhaps just to automatically calculate 20% on the expense. Now I always recommend the extracted amount, and it will read the VAT amount on the actual bill. Now, where you might use to calculate the 20% is if you get a receipt and it's not a VAT receipt, but you know it's got 20% VAT on, for example, but you've not got a VAT receipt off the shop, and it doesn't show the actual VAT element on the transaction. Okay, so the net amount, that will always be the total less the VAT equals the net, and the net amount is what goes into your accountancy software as an expense. So there's no VAT on this transaction, so we're happy with that. Don't worry about this bit, paid, and I'll elaborate more on that here. So we want to publish to purchases. So what that means is all our costs are going into our, what we call our purchase ledger within our accountancy software. So within Xero, it's called aged payables. And what that is, it is a ledger, a record of all our supplier invoices or bills, as they're known, within Xero. So what we can do within our accountancy software, we can track what bills have been put on the system, what have perhaps been paid already, what ones are becoming due for payment, and we can track all them within the system within one place. So I always recommend tracking, publishing to purchases. Okay, so once, if you were happy with that, you would click this green button down here and click publish, and that's going to send this invoice with the correct data over to your accountancy software. So I'll go through how that works with accountancy software in the next training sprint. Okay, I'm going to click on supplier rules because we're going into best practice now and how we can really automate the expense management. So you can assign specific categories. So let's say Virgin Media, all our future invoices are going to go to the telephone account. They're always going to have a due date of 7 days after the invoice date, or perhaps 30 days. So we can set up those parameters. We always want to publish the purchases. We can give it a description, so that description will always come through if it's for the same, if it relates to the same thing every month. And another key feature here is this auto publish. Now, again, this is another form of automation. And what this means is that we've set up these rules here. It's always going to go to the telephone account, and auto publish will mean that any future invoices that come into the system, they're going to go to these categories, and it's automatically going to publish it to accountancy software. So no need to manually come in and press that button and review what's going on here. So that can be good for if your invoices are always going to go to the same category. Maybe it's like a monthly recurring invoice for the same cost. You're happy that the fields have been extracted correctly, so you may may mean may want to wait a couple of months, or after you get a couple of invoices, for example, make sure that it's always been extracted correctly before setting up auto publish. So you can see there, that's how we're really getting that productivity, and you're not having to manually type data in or go through and publish things manually. Okay, so I'm going to go back into the inbox. So if you're happy with that, I would move on to the next one. We can also go back and forward here. So we've got a receipt from Office Supplies for You. And again, we just need to check we're happy with that. The tax amounts of VAT, you can see that here. It's going to publish the purchases. Don't worry about this payment here on payment method. Now these are bank accounts. You can set up your bank account within Receipt Bank. So if you've got bank accounts set up within your accountancy software, you can set your bank account up. And what this is doing, effectively, it's going to put it in our purchase ledger. It's going to mark it as paid. So it's going to go in, out, it's marking as paid, and it's going to mark it as paid from the specific bank account. So that would be useful for like the receipts that you've paid on your card and it's paid out a specific bank account. Again, I wouldn't really worry too much about doing that, because you can mark it as paid by doing the bank reconciliation, and it really follows the same process where you have to mark it as paid manually. Okay, so let's say you're happy with that. You just click publish and I'll move on to the next one. And you just work your way through publishing all your items until you have none left. Okay, so I'll give you an overview of the other features that are listed here. Processing. Now that means items that you've uploaded into the inbox, but it's extracting the fields. So it's what we call in processing. Review. These can be transactions that have been marked as to review. So maybe a junior member of staff wants a more senior member to review. And ready are items that are ready to be published. So you can just click the green button and that will push them over to your accountancy software. Now, Dext only until fairly recently didn't do sales invoices. It was purely only cost. Now, I've never come across a client yet who uses sales invoices, because they've normally raised sales invoices directly from their accountancy software, or they have bespoke software for raising sales invoices. Now, where it might be useful will be for those clients who've historically perhaps used Word for generating sales invoices, then sent out a PDF to the customer. So you can upload into here and it'll extract the fields, very similar to what it does here with the cost side of things. Suppliers. So these are all your suppliers that have ended up in the inbox. Here you can click auto publish. So you can quickly decide if you want to auto publish items from these suppliers. Now, line items, this is when you can tell the software that you want to extract each and individual line items, so as transactions rather than just the total amount. So for an example might be, let's say we've got this receipt here. It's from Morrison's. Instead of extracting the total amount of 83.32, we want to extract the individual amounts that make up that total balance. So a good example might be you go to Morrison's and you are buying different things that relate to different categories. So you might buy some cleaning products or some stock, for example, or some paper for the printer, so that would be postage and stationery. So that's why we would use that to, to break down those items that need to go to different categories within our software. And category, you can set default categories here again, much like what you did within the invoice. And again, within the supplier, you can set defaults, so auto publish and due dates and descriptions and things like that. So that can be useful if you're using the supplier, it's for the same thing every month and it's going to the same category. And as I just mentioned, some thought needs around if you've got a supplier that you might be buying different things from. So an example might be that you get an invoice every quarter and it's for rent, and there is also a portion for electric and gas. So some businesses might want to put the rent side of things to the rent account and the energy cost to, like, say, heat and light, for example. So you need to break that down. So that's where some thought might need to come in about setting up rules and using the line items. Okay. I'm going to go into users. Here you can change your email address. So you can make that bespoke to your business. And finally, I'm going to go into bank accounts, and this is where you can set up your bank account that has been set up within your accountancy software. Okay, so as a final note, what you can do is click on resources and go into training. Now that'll take you to the Dext official training. I think there's some YouTube videos and things like that on there. Okay, so next steps will be to join us for our following training sprint, where we'll look at how the integration with Xero works once we've published the data from Dext into Xero, and how we'll go about reconciling that and reconciling our bank account and our accounts within Xero. So any questions, please contact me or our team on 0191 691 3875 or hello@accountinginc.co.uk, and you can also contact us via our website. Okay, so please join us soon for our next training sprint on Xero, and we'll look forward to seeing you there.